Should we go up to the roof and celebrate properly? Miranda suggested, gathering up the unopened bottles. It's such a gorgeous evening and the weather's been awful all week. Mia, it's only Tuesday, I reminded her as she walked away. And the first 5 days after Sunday are always the worst, she called over her shoulder. Can you tell the boss I'll be late in the morning? You just did, I replied, chasing after her. Just over a year ago, Miranda and I pooled every penny we had and moved Content London, our 2 girls, 1 laptop digital marketing agency, from the cities in the back of Costa Coffee to a tiny corner of a very trendy new co-working space in East London, called The Ginnel. The manager sold the building on stories of its history and character, a description that roughly translated to people used to get mugged outside but not anymore. Exactly the kind of place that would fascinate your father and worry your mother. Of course, that meant that after the cheap deal he used to lure us in expired, the rent was extortionate. But Miranda insisted it was worth it, for the location and the connections we could make, and because you never know who you were going to bump into at the barista station. Because, of course, there was a barista station. The best part of the entire building was the honest-to-goodness actual roof terrace. It wasn't fancy. We didn't have a bar or a sophisticated sound system or sexy lounging furniture. But we did have a load of waterproof beanbags, someone's second-hand settee, and the most beautiful view of the London skyline I had ever called my own. It was all very DIY chic, but I loved it. I'd even brought a few potted plants to hide the electrical boxes. Nothing I could do about the man across the road who liked to parade around naked of an evening, but Miranda assured me he added to the rooftop's character. A few months after moving to the Ginnel, we expanded our work family to make room for Brian, another of our oldest friends, who both happened to know his way around a website and was prepared to take a chance on a fledgling company. I still wasn't sure if it was because he had so much faith in me and Mir, or because we never complained about him rolling into work after 10 a.m. every morning. But either way, I wasn't going to complain. Our budgets were still tighter than a tight thing, but we were making it work, just about. Only puffing very slightly from the last set of stairs, I was determined to make my 10,000 steps. I put my glass down on a wooden box/makeshift table and straightened up to admire the view, digging my fingers into my lower back. Even though we were right in the heart of London, the Ginnel wasn't a very tall building. It always felt peaceful up here. I looked down, watching the tops of the red buses sail by, the tops of people's heads bobbing along to whatever was coming out of their earphones. Even the swell of competing sirens seemed softened by a few floors' distance. Plus it made for fantastic sunset skyline pics, and who didn't love a sunset skyline pic? Monsters. Only monsters. Whenever the weather allowed, I was up here, soaking in the vitamin D and willing my skin to tan. But for all the Ginnel's Brooklyn hipster aspirations, we were still very much in England, and I remained the same shade as your average sheet of A4, year-round. Starting without us? I was settling myself down on the sofa when Charlie Wilder emerged from the doorway, his ever-present shadow, Martin Green, close behind. Charlie was one of the original tenants of the building, and generally liked to swank around as though he owned the place. Martin, however, did own the place. Would that I'd had the presence of mind to mortgage myself to the hilt and buy a ramshackle East London teardown when I was 22. 15 years later, he must have made his money back on this place 1,000 times over. I was fairly certain our monthly rent alone was more than the cost of his original mortgage payments, and there were dozens more tenants in the building. He was so rich, it made me want to do a little cry. Start without you? I looked at Charlie, slightly flustered on the inside, but cool, calm and collected on the outside. Sort of. I could already feel myself turning red. As if we would. What's the occasion? Martin asked, eyeing the bottles of fizz. We, Mir said, handing him a freshly filled glass, are celebrating. Martin, commonly referred to as Miranda's work husband, although never to his face, took the drink with a shy smile. Yes, he could be obnoxious, and yes, he wore one too many ironic t-shirts, but he was also too cute when it came to his very obvious crush on my friend. Celebrating what? Asked